everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming today. Fantastic. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Debbie Schaefer. I'm the third generation owner of Mrs. G TV and Appliances. We're in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. We're all here. Been in business. Mrs. G's has been in business for 77 years. Celebrating 77 years. Thank you very much. And how about this? 3 generations of women-owned business. All right. That's so cool. So one of the reason why we've been in business for so long is because I have an amazing staff, and the sales team is extremely knowledgeable, and we take care of the customer before, during, and after the sale, especially after the sale. That is really why we can beat the competition, all the competition that we have in this area. That's why we're still in business, and we're thankful for all our employees here. They're fantastic. And but another reason why we're $1 billion in buying all over the country. The warehouse that we use from the buying group is very close to here, only about a half hour, and we get actually deliveries from them every day. And that's how we can compete with all the big box, national big box chains and the regional chains. So we're so glad for you to be here, and we're glad we're celebrating 77 years in business.
All right.
So we're actually kicking off today our culinary community series cooking demonstrations. We're going to be doing this all year long, and I want to introduce Mary Beth Madrill. She's our executive chef, Mrs. G's executive chef, and we've been actually hosting since January, celebrating Black History Month, and this is the perfect time for us to have Southern soul food, wonderful food. So I'm going to let you introduce our wonderful chefs today.
As Debbie said, my name is Mary Beth Medill. I'm the Mrs. G's executive chef, and I want to welcome you all here today. This is fabulous equipment we get to cook on, so make sure at the end of the demonstration you walk around the store, you see everything there is to offer. There's going to be some sampling of food throughout the store, but today we have with us the ABC Dadlites. And we have here Adrian, Beverly, and Cynthia, and the dad, Mr. Peyton here, is the dad who started it all, who taught these girls how to cook. So, there's some brochures going around that tells you a little bit about our group. They have a catering business in Trenton, New Jersey, so they're a local caterer, again, through the community. Any questions for the ladies or myself, please feel free to just raise your hand, or we'll be walking around also handing out some samples. So I'm going to let each of the ladies talk a little bit about their specialties and what they're cooking today. And we're going to start getting some samples and food in those bellies of yours so you can enjoy. So, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Also to Debbie, thank you so very much for having us today, come out to be a part of this experience. I just want to say before we start off is that, as you said, our dad is the one who taught us what we know, him and my mom. And I must say that they've been a part of Mrs. G's before I was born. And some of our food that we're cooking today started from the appliances that Mrs. G's had when you started out back on South Broad Street.
That's from the courthouse.
Yes.
All right.
So with that being said, we have on display a variety of different foods that we're going to sample. We're going to start off today with the collard greens. I'm going to try to just talk loud. I don't know if I can hold on to that mic. Collard greens. Basically, you have 2 ways of preparing collard greens. In today's technology, the new way they have is they're already cleaned, already cut, and prepared for you straight from the bag. Glory greens. The other way that my dad have been prepared. Basically, what goes into collard greens, the first part is, like I said, you have them in the bag. With having them in the bag, they're already clean, but I still like to make sure by giving it a little extra rinse. And as I'm rinsing, I'm just going to share with you, if we had them fresh from the garden, basically it requires a little bit more work. You basically have those picked from the garden. You're putting them into a sink to let them soak, to get some of the grit and dirt off of them. And then as you do, you have your area where you cut them up, where you see them this way at this point. But you have an area where you just roll them, kind of get you a knife, and kind of cut them up. The other thing I'll say is, normally while you're preparing to do that, you already have on the stove your pan or your pot with some boiling water in it. And some people like to have them just without any meat. For those who like a little meat and a little bit more seasoning, you either have a ham hock or some smoked turkey, whichever's your preference, just to give them a little bit more flavor. We have some people who like pork and we have others who don't, so you have the turkey wing for those who do not eat pork and those who do, a nice piece of fat back with Dadlites to put in them, give them seasoning. So basically we're just putting those right into your pot. After you put them into the pot, normally what we let them do is probably for about a half an hour to 45 minutes. You let them go ahead and start to cook down. You see, as they're raw, they're kind of like a light green. But as they begin to cook, and this is cooking, so I don't know, for those in my front, you probably can see, they get a little darker. As they get darker, basically what you want to do at that point is starting to add just a little bit of your different seasonings. Those seasonings consist of a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of seasoning salt, and actually you can do a little bit of salt, but because we're trying to eat a little healthier, less salt, a little bit more black pepper, and a little less seasoned salt. Basically, you'll still have some good seasoning with it, but it's healthier eating. After you get your seasonings in it, again, you're just kind of putting your top back on the pot, having it kind of simmer and cook. Once they start getting the darker green color, you want to turn that fire down to kind of like a simmer. Once you get it down to the simmer is when you want to add you just a little pinch of oil. For a family of 4 to 6, probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but you can kind of see how tender they are. Something I've learned with cooking, as cooks, when it's time to have that meal, half the time you don't want to eat because you've tasted throughout the time of the preparing that you're normally full. So I say just taste to see if they're tender enough for you, and at that point they're ready to be served. Any questions with regards to the preparation of collard greens? How much water did you put in? With the water, normally you want to kind of fill to half of a pot with your water. Because normally what's going to happen is once you get your, especially if you're cooking with your salt pork or if you're cooking with your smoked turkey, once you're starting to cook that down, your water is going to go out of it. But something with collard greens is, although like they're in the water now, even after draining them, they still have water to them. So once you put them in the pot, you're going to regain some of that water back in your pot. But normally a half of the pot filled with water in the cook down. As you see it cook though, you can add if you need to, as you're seeing it cook down. You don't want it to cook all the way out because you get a scorched taste. So you want a little bit for your juice. The last thing I'll say that I did not say, some people even put a little bit of hot sauce in it, just to give it a little bit of tang of flavor. Then others wait till they're served and have a little bit of hot sauce. Either way, it's kind of a taste preference that you like to have with that. Any other questions? Okay, if no other questions about the collard greens, some of our servers we have with us today are here, and they're going to pass out for you to sample some of the collard greens.
So that was terrific. That was actually the only brand right now that's making a downdraft cooktop. So you actually, well, we'll actually be able to see how great this downdraft cooktop is when she starts to cook fried chicken, because it's actually going to absorb all of the smells that we're going to get. Not too much. We're still going to smell some of the great chicken, but it really keeps the smoke and the smells out. And this is what they call a recirculating. Just a few brands have this now. It's actually a recirculating downdraft. And what I mean by that is you don't have to have all of your ductwork going out to the outside to get rid of all of the smoke and the grease and the smells. It actually cleans the air via carbon filter. Really quiet. And it has terrific simmer, right?
Yes.
You feel your terrific simmer, and then it goes up to super high, and of course, really easy to clean.
Yes. Okay.
So I think we're going to go into our fried chicken. I'm actually just going to put into the pot the collard greens that we just talked about. And another specialty we have with us is the fried chicken. So we're going to have Cynthia kind of start that off. And as she's doing her preparation, I will kind of just share with you what goes into the preparation of fried chicken. Just a slight change, still dealing with the food. Instead of going into the fried chicken, I understand next to come is the macaroni and cheese. So they're getting ready to bring that around to you. So before you get to taste it, figure we'll talk about the macaroni and cheese a little bit. Macaroni and cheese starts off, of course, with our preparation of our noodles. We have some that are already cooked off because it does when you're doing the noodles. It's basically just a bag or a box of the elbow macaroni. And in preparing that, you're just putting on a pot of boiling water. And in that water, before it even begins to boil, you want to go ahead and add a little bit of oil. The purpose of the oil is just to help from your noodles sticking not only to the pot, but also to each other. So in cooking them off, you don't want to have them too mushy. You don't want to have them too firm. So just in cooking the macaroni normally takes probably about 15 minutes. In a pot like this, it'll take you about 15 to 20 minutes to cook. Once you get your water to a boil, you're basically throwing in your box of macaroni. Once you get your box of macaroni in there, like I said, your oil is already in there. You're going to let them cook for about 20 minutes as you see them to begin to get firm. And after you do that, they basically it also helps to get some of the starch off. This just automatically comes with having the noodles. My dad's telling me one way to be able to tell is you're kind of going to pinch on your noodle to be able to tell that it's firm enough for you to be able to put it into your Pyrex or aluminum pan. Normally a box, maybe a box and a half, depending on how full you want your pan to be, is enough to serve probably about 15 to 20 people. Normally off of a half of a pan. It depends on how much if you're serving it versus letting someone get it on their own. You probably can feed anywhere from 20 to 25 people. Okay? So after you get your macaroni and you get it into your half a pan or your Pyrex pan, you're basically at that point going to add your cheeses. Now, we have also with us different recipes going around. And macaroni and cheese is out already. We don't have that to kind of show. But with that, the cheese, you can use your cheddar cheeses. Some people like high-end cheese. The regular ShopRite cheese, Acme cheese, we find do the same thing. However, again, the cheese is your preference. More so if you get you a block of cheese and kind of, you can either already buy it shredded or to have it shredded that way. The cheddar cheese will be either your white or your orange, and some people also like to do a combination of the white and the orange. Once you basically have that in your, mixed in with your macaroni, you'll have you a can of the carnation milk, and you basically are going to mix that with your eggs. The carnation milk and your eggs is what you're going to mix together, and that's what you're going to pour into your elbow macaroni, as well as your cheese. Once you get that in there,
That sounds pretty quick and easy, rather than making a lot of times people don't want to make mac and cheese because they feel like they have to make a cheese sauce and all
Yes,
that stuff.
yes.
With this, you're cooking your macaroni, you're putting your cheese in, so you're really just mixing some eggs and a can of the
Carnation, yes.
evaporated milk. Slaps.
with that, yes. With that being said, you're kind of just mixing it. From there, you can see, because the macaroni does absorb the milk. So you'll see like the milk being absorbed. Sometimes, depending on how much macaroni you have in there, the best thing to do is kind of gauge it. If you need to add more milk, you can take whole milk at that point because you've already used your canned milk. Just to gauge it. You don't want to soak your macaroni, but just to have enough where it's kind of the noodles are meeting the milk. So just enough where it's even, not too much milk on top. After you do that, you have you a spoon. And you take some people like the Land O'Lakes butter, some people like the Crock spread butter. Either way, you normally just take little scoops and kind of put it throughout your macaroni. After you do that, it's kind of already mixed. A piece of foil, put it in the oven, bake it at 425. And at that point, for the macaroni and cheese to cook. Normally what I do is after the macaroni and cheese has cooked, you can see that it's cooked. It kind of gets brown on the top. Taking the foil off of that. After you take the foil off, a little paprika, which you just want to sprinkle on the top. And more so, that's just for color. Does nothing, doesn't really add flavor or anything. It's strictly that, just for color. After you sprinkle the paprika onto the macaroni, put it back in your oven for about another 10 minutes before you're serving it. Once you get it back into the oven for those 10 minutes, you'll have a nice, pretty, golden brown macaroni and cheese ready to serve. Any questions regarding the macaroni and cheese?
Well, I'd say that was pretty good. I don't know. I love my example. That was excellent. I love this.
Adrian, what do you think about all these people now are making their macaroni and cheese fancy? Just like, we used to just have mashed potatoes, and now there's roasted garlic mashed potatoes. And now with macaroni and cheese, they're putting lobster in it, bacon, and all those things. Are you a traditionalist? You just like it?
Traditional. I think it, of course, gives another flavor, but it's nothing like some homemade, down-home macaroni and cheese. There's certain things I just don't think you can play with. Macaroni and cheese, Dad's fried chicken, certain things you just can't add, different things. I just heard someone say to me, I don't know if anyone else has heard this, a new thing they're doing now is putting actually Captain Crunch to make fried chicken. So, I hear it tastes great. Don't knock it till you try it, but I know, but it's nothing like that down-home fried chicken. So, any other questions? Collard greens, macaroni and cheese?
Do you use regular oil in it or olive oil?
You can actually use both, but we use the regular corn oil, yes. Corn oil, vegetable oil.
Olive oil is better.
Yes.
This is the real deal. You understand? I don't know any place you can get it that'll taste any better than this. But eating it in Mrs. G's, I think it'll probably taste better. But to make the chopped barbecue, I use a shoulder. I use a shoulder, and you have to chop it up after it's well done. And then you have to add your ingredients: salt, black pepper, a little bit of vinegar. And I think probably you can taste that in it. But I don't think, if you could find better barbecue anyplace else, you bring me some and I'll buy it. But I think that's about much need to be said about it. I think now Cynthia is going to do the
Fried chicken. While we're waiting for Cynthia to heat up the pan for the fried chicken, of course, part of the fried chicken, the first thing is getting you a nice hot pan with your Western oil in it, and the oil has to heat up. So while she's having that prepared. I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are. I know they gave you brochures. We started, as Mary Beth told you, with our mother and father. My mom's no longer with us, but we have Dad. I'm one of 6. I'm the baby. But it's 6 of us. And from the 6 of us having children, so normally a Thanksgiving or a Christmas holiday in our household consists of about 50 to 60 people, normally. So that's normally where we start off with our cooking. But we've been blessed and we have an opportunity that now, growing up in, my grandmother was a pastor, but growing up in the church, we've had an opportunity to expand our wings thanks to our church family, Union Baptist Church, where we had the opportunity to cook in the kitchen for funerals and different events, homecoming events that we had. And from there, having family and friends spread the word, we've had an opportunity to cook for weddings, baby showers, christenings, birthday parties. And that's basically how we've come about as far as starting our business. So we've been cooking for a long time, but in 2001, just talking with my sisters and with my dad, I said we might as well make this into a catering business. It's something that we love to do. And I think with the art of cooking, it definitely has to be something that you love to do. You have to love it. And that we do. We love seeing people put a smile on someone's face who has just buried a loved one. We love being a part of an event when someone has just tied vows and want to spend the rest of their life with someone. And as well as leaving church service, is nothing like you want to make sure you have you some hot oil. I know one of our guests asked about the olive oil. You can even do the fried chicken in olive oil as well. But we do use the vegetable oil, the Western vegetable oil, and it's allowing it to get very hot into your pan. After you're getting that hot, or while you're preparing to get that hot, what you want to do is you have your chicken, and this is very important. When you're dealing with the raw meats, you basically want to make sure you clean it very well. So it's a matter of cleaning that chicken off, and normally after you clean it in the sink, you should take some bleach to make sure you clean your sink out. Put it into a bowl to season it. And with the seasoning, you're basically just doing some black pepper, seasoned salt, and paprika just gives it kind of the little reddish coloring. Again, paprika really doesn't do anything for the flavoring, but just add some color to your food for you. So after you mix that, you're mixing that into just some white, unbleached flour is what you're using. Different type of flours you can use for that. Some people put it into a brown bag. You can just use a plastic bag or just have your Ziploc to mix your flour in. After you do that, you also want to put some of that paprika, your black pepper, and your seasoned salt in your flour, as well as directly onto your chicken for the flavoring. After you've mixed that all together, you're basically, Dad says, shake, rattle, and roll. So after you have that nice and seasoned, you're normally just doing a test to make sure your oil, because you have to get that oil very hot before you can put your chicken into that oil. So once you have that, and if you're paying attention, Cindy just basically took a little bit of your flour just to see if you're getting it to sizzle. Once you get that oil nice and hot, it is sizzling. As you see, she's patting off the chicken. You don't want to get too much flour into your... Another important part of having a nice piece of golden brown fried chicken that's not burnt is your temperature on your stove. Although you're starting it off real hot, once you get that chicken into your grease, if you're starting off with your thighs and your breast, you want to turn it down just a little. And the whole purpose of that is because on the outside it will look nice and golden brown. And you're getting ready to serve that to someone and they cut into it and it's still raw. So you want to make sure you turn your temperature down just a little bit, not low, more so in between that medium and high. It's where you want to keep it. And kind of just watching it. You don't want to touch it, just let it go ahead and get there. The longer you let it sit there without keep flipping it, kind of gets your crunch on it. Makes it nice and crunchy. Here's a sample of some that's already prepared and done. And I believe that should be coming around. If you haven't received it already, the fried chicken is coming around as well.